Hello, I'm Joe, and look at that island out there. It has started to spawn animals. There's some cows, there's some pigs, and I get the feeling they spawned here because I've been spending a lot of time in there. So, welcome back to me building a new workshop in the new snapshot. It is still 19W03C, and yeah, I haven't put out the other video yet. I wanted to I'm just really excited about this project. You may notice that there's a bit more wiring and things around, and that's because I have made some changes in here. First, I'm going to start with the tanks here, which I am actually trying to fill up with the fuel of choice, redstone dust. So, what I did is set it up so that the lamps, there's more than one lamp. It doesn't show when they're completely full, but it does show when this chest is full, and I actually managed to get this to work by adjusting how the chests were placed in the tank. So there's that, and you might notice this new display here. This is how much power is in the engine's battery. See, the bottom one is for the dropper and the top one is for the chest. See, where is it? To get the amount of items in the dropper, I just took the comparator signal and ran a massive comparator line all the way to the side here, and those blocks just power the lamps. So if you didn't know, you can actually transfer redstone signal strength through comparators by doing this, which is crazy, but it works. So next thing I did was I needed to grab a strength from this chest up here. I didn't take one from the hopper because I didn't think it was horribly important. And I don't think I ever will, because doing that would be too much of a hassle. But yeah, I made it so from the double chest we take a comparator signal into this yellow block through this other white wire, and it's just the same thing except for the double chest. As for the actual engine, I've made a lot of changes to this thing. Not just the output signal for this chest here, I've added a buffer that will hold redstone dust if this is empty. So, whoops, I am in a block. So, I think I explained this last time, but this dropper, that hopper, and this chest are going to be full when the battery is empty, and this chest, this hopper, and that dropper back there are going to be full when the battery is full. And the dropper is pointing up, so it spits it into this chest, and then the hopper pulls it from the chest and puts it in the dropper, etc., etc. So what I did is I put a comparator up against the dropper, so when it's empty, it'll activate that redstone torch and power this block, which will stop the hopper above the dropper that spits things into the lava. It'll stop this hopper from pulling redstone from above it, which means the engine will stop running when its battery is full. I also had to readjust the item filter so that we could put the chest here, which means not only is there a hopper above there, but there is also a chest that the hopper is pointing into, and then that chest is just pointing into the dropper, and that's the filter system. And because of all of that, I couldn't have the door at the front anymore, so I had to move it to the back, where there's a ladder, but the ladder was there anyways because it's actually really easy to climb over this thing. And I also took out all the scaffolding because you can actually reach up to the item hopper in there. I don't know if you can reach it in survival. Sorry, I should unbind those. But you can actually... There's a reach difference between survival and creative mode. See, now I can easily reach that. But I'm thinking probably build a backup generator here at some point, just so that we don't have to worry about having to manually fuel this engine. Obviously the backup generator is not going to be in this room, because this room also has all our controls for where power goes. And there's going to be a lot more than 5 rooms, because this one is 2 doors. Which means we're probably going to have to build a little panel in here at some point for all the other rooms. And yeah, it might get a little messy in here. We can probably move some of the systems up to the control room when we build it, but we don't have enough of the ship built to make the control room, so yeah. Now if you'll excuse me for a minute, I screwed up some key bindings in my recording software, and I need to fix that, like, now. Right, now that I won't accidentally cut off the audio and video by accident anymore, really sorry about that, we are going to be making a new room in this episode, and because I don't know what else I want to put in here, and I kind of want to leave room for when we need to put in more switches, so yeah. I have some idea of what I want to do for this room, which may or may not be the same size as this. I might make it bigger, I might not. I haven't actually decided yet, but we'll see. Anyways, I actually have a list of things that I want to build for this hub spaceship thing on my phone right now. And I want to make like a backup generator, probably not in the generator room, maybe it's its own room, maybe not. But I also want to make a battery room to store up energy in case the engine gets put out of service for some reason. I also want to get living quarters, a mess hall, a control room, a transporter room, and it's raining. Great. Right, where was I? Transporter room? Yeah, transporter room, medical bay, some cargo bays, maybe 1 or 2, and a recreation room. Now, the engine room is meant to be on the bottom floor, and I guess there's going to be like bottom floor, another floor above it, and then a control room somewhere. Maybe have that be at the way front of the ship and not be on any floor. Maybe have it be between 2 floors. But since this is the bottom floor, our next room has to be either the battery room or cargo bays. Because I can't think of anything else that would go on the bottom floor except maybe the transporter. Because you wouldn't want living quarters, a mess hall, or a recreation room, or a medical bay to be really close to the engine because noise and disrupting inhabitants of the ship and all that. And I'm not moving around on the screen a lot because I'm looking at my phone right now. So that just leaves battery room and cargo rooms. Did I say transporter room? Maybe transporter room. That'd probably have to be on the second floor too. Which means there's probably not going to be a lot down here. And since I kind of want to go with redstone, I kind of want to make the battery room. At the same time, the battery room is going to be really complicated. Because charging the batteries should take power away from this, but at the same time taking power away from this, and I don't know, I feel like it's complicated. I feel like it would be complicated. I'm not sure what I would be doing with it right now. But you know what? I wasn't sure what I would be doing with the generator room, and the battery room is would be right next to the engine room, so that kind of makes sense. And we could have the cargo bays be back here. Or maybe just one big cargo bay? That'd be alright too. We'll see. But yeah, battery room is going to be going next to the generator room then. Engine room. This is an engine. Or is it a generator? I don't even know anymore. It is 11 o'clock at night that I'm recording this because I'm just so excited for it. And I can't sleep. So yeah, I'm just going to take a few minutes to build up a floor over there. And yeah, I'll see you then. Alright, so it's the next day. I actually went and got some sleep, and I spent some time figuring out what I want to happen. Charging the battery room drains the engine battery. There's going to be a backup. There's going to be a backup generator to help set off the engine in the next room, so that I don't have to worry about a manual entry for that. Of course, the backup generator is going to need one. It's fine. I want to be able to switch between using the engine battery and the batteries in this room. And I only want to charge the battery when the engine is running. Or when it's full, like it is now. So, this is the battery that's in the engine. This is the third time I've explained it, but I'm gonna do it again anyways. You have your fuel in one dropper, or you have an item in one dropper and you have nothing in the other dropper. So when this dropper gets powered, it sends the item into this dropper, which gives off a redstone signal as long as there's something in that dropper. And when you're using power, a pulse goes to this dropper, which gets rid of the items and puts them back in this dropper. It's basically a really weird counting thing, except it doesn't really count anything. And the problem with that battery is making it bigger. You probably saw, but I've tried. I've tried. In this battery, there's basically one of these for storage and one of them for holding the items that represent power, which I use seeds because, well, reasons. So let's say there's a bunch of seeds in here. They would need to go into there and only come out of there when we're using power. And that's where this gets complicated, because to take the items from this silo and put them in this silo, it needs to go to the top there, which means using an item elevator and pushing them up to there. Which, on its face, isn't that complicated. You can just put the items in and they'll start making their way into there. And you can see that it starts to fill up. The thing is, this needs to go off when we're using power, and that's not the tricky part. The tricky part is having multiple of these. See, this is one big battery, and it's pushed as far back as I can right now, because we need to have something to return the items in here back into here. So what I was thinking was having these droppers spit out their items into another hopper line, and I don't have anything hooked up from over there, so it'd be like pulses every now and then, and they'd all get sent into here. But this would actually be another one of those, sending the items just up into another hopper line that puts them into these modules. Now, none of this is inherently tricky. What I am having problems with is figuring out how I'm going to time, like, having a bunch of these, because only one item needs to go through this at once. So like if we have two of these, just give me 1 second to put this together. If we have two of these and nothing to differentiate between the two, then they're going to start moving items at the same time, which means if we send a pulse to both of these, then only one is going to, then both of them are going to send an item, and this is going to go up by 2 instead of 1, and we only want it to go up by 1. Because that would essentially make this charge up twice or 3 times or 4 times as fast than we would want it to, depending on how many of those we have, because we need to store the same amount of items that could be stored in here in this system. So yeah, something I have thought of doing is, instead of sending a pulse to these and regulating these and all that, we could just send a pulse to this item elevator. So instead of the items like being sent up as soon as they get into this dropper, we could send like just a redstone signal. Let's say we could just send a redstone signal and it would send an item up. That would make things easier. And that's probably how we're going to do that. But the next question is figuring out how to send one pulse to one of these modules. So if I just build another one here really quick. Right, so if we have 2 of these, then they're going to fill up this one first, and then this one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. Now, if we work through it without adding like any regulatory things to make it so that if this one is empty, don't fill it up unless this one is full, and if this one is empty, don't fill it up unless this one is full. If we don't do that, then which battery do we empty first? We would have to empty this one unless it's empty, in which case empty this one, unless it's empty, in which case empty this one, etc., etc. And I'm not sure how to do that, but I will figure something out. Okay, so to figure out how I want to do this, I figured I would need to actually figure out how to power those first. So my immediate thoughts would be a redstone torch beneath them. And I've marked off where the droppers are with emerald, just to differentiate between the blocks and know where I'm going with this. Right, so if those are... Okay, so then we need to power this block, and we can probably do that just with repeaters. And since this is a circuit, since this circuit is going to be using power, it needs to go off at the same rate that the one for the engine does, and the one for the engine is just a 4-hopper clock. So we can just put a comparator, a repeater, and redstone dust all the way down, and that should make them all go off. Alright, and I'll just put a lever down there to make it stop clicking. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about this being powered. In fact, that's probably preferable. So they're going to fill up this one, and then this one, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So if this one has things in it, use this one, unless this one doesn't have things in it. So if this one doesn't have things in it, use this one. Which means we should pull a signal from here and use it to power this torch. So if this has a thing, then when we turn this on, this one won't pulse. Which means this would be the only one spitting things out if they both had things in it. Alright. Okay, and then it does that. But then we want it to not make an annoying clicking noise. So we need to find a way to unpower its own torch when it's not using power. So that's where we get power from for this comparator. So, okay, that's a bad idea. You know what? We can take a slab, stick it right there. The comparator will still give out a signal, but if there's nothing in it, it won't work. And if something does go in it, well, that's a problem for another day. Actually, no, that's a problem for today. Okay, good. So this won't be the most efficient system, but I think this is going to work. That is a lot of chests. So I put everything together and wired everything up. So when this is going, all the droppers will be pushing things out unless there's nothing in them, which there isn't right now. Or if the one ahead of them, actually, does this, okay, maybe not that. If I just take some buttons and I put it into here, will it start spitting them out? No, it won't. Why is that? Wait, is it? Oh, it is. I forgot that it was silent. Right. So they're all gonna be in here. Yep. With a bunch of seeds as well. Speaking of seeds, not only did I set this entire thing up, although it is not 100% complete yet, I filled all of these with seeds. Every single one, all the way down to the bottom. That's a lot of seeds. And the reason I haven't run a hopper from the bottom here into this yet is because I want to get this set up to actually do the pulses to power all these batteries, and also we need to figure out how to hook these batteries up to the main power line. Which I will be doing in a minute. But first, you need to be turned off. And second, what is second? Okay, I haven't done any of these yet. Okay, so charge to the battery when the engine is running. I think it might just be best to charge the battery when it's actually when the engine has power in its battery. So that would mean, let me see here. We should take a signal from the main power line and run it into this. So let's take this and, well, this is going to be the front of it, so we can probably bring it up here. And this needs to be on a hopper clock as well, with a repeater, or comparator, going into a repeater there. So if we put something in there, it powers itself. Yep, that's on me. Okay, how do we fix that? That'll probably work. Alright. Now we just need, let's say, a torch here to keep the item from going around. Then we just so while that's charging, it needs to run into the black line so that the power also goes down. And we should probably make this a different color to show that it's not technically the main line. This is a subline, so let's make this a gray line. Right, so that's the gray line, and that's a creeper, and I don't think they're meant to be able to spawn on hoppers, so I have no idea how he got up there. So then the gray line needs to run into the black line, or wait, no, it shouldn't run directly into the black line. It should only run into this line if this is getting charged, which means we need a lever to tell this to be charged. Okay, well that won't be too much of an issue. It's just the same thing we've done before. Sticky piston, block, lever. Okay. And now we take a signal from past that and run it into the black line. So as long as this battery is charging, the other battery will not charge. Right, so now that should be... Yes, it is using up power. The only reason it's blinking like that is because the engine had a bit of leftover fuel in it. Okay, so I guess the only thing left is to actually hook all of these up into this, and then hook all of these up into the main power line. Okay, so you know how I said the dispenser spitting out its item probably wouldn't be too big of an issue if it were to do that? I was wrong. See, when I tell this to start charging it, it's gonna start moving the items and there's gonna be, whoo, start chugging. And as soon as it goes in, it spits out, and it doesn't give it a chance to charge. Which means the pink wiring down here needs to change. So I'm just going to take a minute to tear this all out and think of something else. Well, it works. Although it is definitely just a mess of pink and redstone. Let me see if I can explain how this works. So, this is the clock that will tell this to send a pulse to each of these. So this is the clock that will tell each of these modules, that will send a pulse to each of these modules. When each module gets a pulse, and let's take this end one for an example, it turns this torch off, which will turn this torch on, which will power the dispenser above it. But if there isn't anything, it's so hard to get around, I'm sorry. If there isn't anything in the dropper, then this redstone is turned off, which turns this torch on, which powers this redstone, powering this torch, making sure it doesn't turn on. If there's something in the module next to it, let's say that there's something in here, like wool or whatever, then the redstone on this side is turned on. It sends a signal back here, powering that redstone, powering that torch, making sure this dropper never activates. And this happens for all of them, except the end ones. The one at the beginning doesn't give a pulse to the one to its left, and the one at the end doesn't receive a pulse to one on its right, mostly because there is no one on the left and there is no one on the right, respectively. But we're not done yet. Not with the pink line, no, not at all. See, we have to make sure that this is also sending power to every other system. Well, maybe not every other system, but we have to make sure that this is sending power to other systems, and that those systems are not, in turn, telling the engine here to lose power, is telling this to lose power. So my initial thought is to just put a pulse extender here, and then send that signal into the main line. But then, if I don't do something at the other end, all the power is going to be going to the black line. I suppose what I can do is take this pulse, run it into the white line, and then somehow turn the black line off, which is going to require some rewiring of the black line if we do it that way. But I don't see any other way to do that. So, yeah, I guess I'll get to that. First thing though, gotta run a signal from this lever to turn off the clock down here. Am I low enough? No, that should be good. And that should turn the clock off. Alright. So, charging the battery room drains the engine battery. This is the mechanism to charge the battery, and it is charged as long as there is power in the main battery, and it runs a black line all the way back to drain the battery. So we can check that one off the list. Charge battery when engine is running. That's what the white line does. Switch engine battery and battery room. We have a switch here to switch to battery power. I have set it up so that we can't actually charge the battery when we are using battery power, because it doesn't really make sense to charge our battery with itself, now does it? So that will start this clock, which will send pulses to this pulse extender, which will make it a constant signal, sending it through the light gray line, turning off the drain to the main battery, and sending power to everything else while draining itself. So we can check that off the list. As for a backup generator, yeah, I'm not going to do that today. I might try and come up with some ideas off screen, but just this room took up so much time. I don't even have an idea on how to cover up all this stuff yet. Not to mention, I needed to punch out some of the lights, so things are spawning everywhere in this, and it's just a mess. So, yeah. Not today. Not today. Anywho, thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions, any at all, please let me know in the comments. I appreciate any ideas, any support. Just hopefully this was a big project. This was a big project. So yeah, I might just sit and let this charge for a while.